All right. Item B, roll call. Chair Seth, I am here. Vice Chair Ned.
Present.
All right, and Alder Andy.
Here.
And we've got John.
Present.
And Stephanie is excused. Amy is excused. Corey.
Present.
Julia.
Present.
And Mark is also excused. And then thank you to Alders Stoyer and Dorf for joining us, and Parks Director Ditchite. We'll move on to approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Alder Andy. Is there a second? By John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, that passes. On to approval of the minutes from last month, January 19th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
By Randy. Is there a second?
Second, and I have a question.
All right, so there's a second, and then open the floor for questions. Ned.
Just real quick, I read through the minutes, really detailed. Is that what the Alders got last week? Or did they get, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, since we had our meeting and then they had their meeting a couple weeks ago. Do they get a detailed account like we get, or do they get kind of the bare bones?
We don't always seem to get it. Maybe I'm just missing something, but some of the committees don't report out. Anyway, go ahead, Mark.
Who's the chair?
I'm the
Yes,
chair.
Chair.
Thanks.
Yes,
Mark.
exactly.
Alderdorf. Yeah.
Thank you. We would have to go out to city clerk, and on the city clerk web, we would have to purposefully go into the meeting, and then we would have to click on it and we would have to watch it. And so there, no, we don't. And Alder Storer was right. We don't get report outs of the Sustainability Commission. Well, it's kind of on the agenda,
Yeah.
but it's not like deeply detailed, is it, Randy?
Well, we haven't been reporting a lot out, but yeah, we get reports out. I mean, it's on.
Oh,
the
we get the
agenda,
little
so,
bitty, yeah.
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 Okay, Melissa.
As staff person, I would like to say something about that. The staff person and the person that manages the civic clerk. So the direction I was given when I came on board and did the minutes and everything was we report out on action items. So if it is general information, an informational only item, it is not reported out. So some months, if there has not been an action item, there is nothing to report out. However, those meetings are all fully recorded and everything is public information based on what you find in on the city's website.
My question, I guess, came from, thanks, Melissa, the matrix. We had that robust discussion on the matrix. I just didn't know what city council could see. I attended that meeting. I looked at the council packet, and from what I could see, it just had the draft that we brought to sustainability and not the notes that you took last time we met. So I just wasn't sure if they got to see the fully annotated grid.
They got the draft because this meeting is the meeting with the fuller, more robust work plan based on the feedback that we discussed in the past meeting.
Okay. So that
So nothing has gone, since Sustainability Commission has not approved that work plan.
Because we held it over. Okay.
Correct.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation on that. I don't have any more questions, Chair.
All right,
Chair
Alderdorf.
Seth, I certainly don't want anyone to think that I am criticizing any staff for anything that they have done. Absolutely not. No, not at all. We as alders should be responsible enough to go on to Civic Clerk Web and to watch the meetings or to read the meetings. This is an important committee. And I again am grateful to Alder Stoyer for bringing that forward, because it would have helped me at the meeting last night if I had more information. But it was my responsibility to have had that information. I didn't have it because of me. So I don't blame anything on staff, okay? Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm gonna blame it all on you.
Sure. I was going to just add to what Alder Dorf said. We had a long discussion about GI yesterday and the merits and such. I think a lot of the alders were just unsure of how to vote or how to move forward. They think it's important, but they're not sure of all the details that are entailed with it, even myself. But it got to the point where some people were testifying, and, depending on who was testifying better, it seemed like it swayed a little bit that way. So I'm just saying that for the future, whether it's GI or other sustainable documents or initiatives, it would be good for us as alders to have more information, or at least links or contacts that we can look up, that we can make some good informed decisions.
Just as a point of clarification, the GI did not come from our commission. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You're right. Well, you know what? You're right. But I think with sustainability, it covers a broad base, and I think there's going to be all sorts of directives over time that we're going to be voting on or looking at. So, maybe it's not exactly it's public works and such, but there's certain things with sustainability or ecology or what have you that overlap a little bit. So I think it's good for us to know as much as we can.
Definitely. Thanks, Alder. And I just want to remind folks, the motion is to approve the minutes, and the question was about what is in the information packet. So anything else, I think we have plenty to talk about later about the excitement of the last few meetings, and also looking forward at our work plan. Anything else on the main motion? All right.
Who initiated that motion?
I think that was Randy and Ned. All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right, good deal. And now we will move on to regular business discussion of our Sustainability Commission work plan for this year, with possible action to approve. So context, if folks want to bring this up on their screens, or if you already have it in front of you, that's great. So this is the edited...
I can attempt to share screen.
Would that be helpful? All right.
I will give that a shot.
Cool. While you're doing that, so just context, this is the second draft of the planning document, the work plan that lays out some of our primary goals, some actions we want to take, and just some delegations of tasks, target dates, etc. So this isn't a policy proposal per se. This is an organizational tool to help us do our better work. Since at two, and I think this is what you were alluding to, Ned, at the last two council meetings ago, there was some questions about our incomplete draft. I thought it would be helpful to add a little bit more up top about the purpose of this document. So that was the context of the conversation last time, but I wanted to make sure that it just was in writing that this work plan is not a policy proposal with data, budget projections, things like that are all very important, but rather a tool to focus our work and to provide transparency to council, mayor, city staff, and the citizens that we are doing work on behalf of. So that you will find is new. But yeah, based on our discussion, there are a number of edits. So I have also added this process bit. And then we have added notes on climate resilience, ecological restoration. I have Mark's waste reduction things, and then I added general goals and principles for each issue area, which was a product of the discussion. So why don't we just go through item by item again, if that would be helpful for folks. So purpose of the document. Does anybody, my Zoom is, all right. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about the first paragraph addition, the purpose of the document? All right, and then so moving on to the process. I know this when we started meeting, the nature of advisory commissions, citizen commissions. Do we have teeth? Do we have the ability to pass policies ourselves? I know that's always a little bit confusing. I think there are times in council where folks are wondering what we are doing. I think just again for transparency for both our work on the council or on the commission, but then for everybody else involved, wanted to lay out how this is the schoolhouse rock, how a bill becomes a law. So we're going to do a lot of the work. We're going to develop actions, proposals. Things will go to committee or other commissions before going to council for final approval. I think there are some principles that we want to make sure we are grounding our work in, having things be data driven. There is a ton of data out there about everything that we're doing. And we have a lot of experts on this commission that know a lot of the science and the data. And I think that's a really important principle to stay grounded in for all of our work. Additionally, we realize that as an advisory commission, we're not necessarily overflowing with funds. Anything that we're proposing to council should be mindful of city staff capacity, of budgets. And again, we defer to council for final approval, but when we bring recommendations, we want to make sure that they're being financially responsible and promote, economic development, etc. Kind of those principles recognize the core of sustainability, which is the social good, the economic good, and the environmental good. And then just really, I think as Alder Stoyer and Alder Dorff pointed out, that asking questions, coming to this commission, we really, really want that that input, that feedback, those questions. So any questions about the process, which is an addition to last month's draft? All right. Clean energy, we didn't have a lot of additional feedback or input from last time, so this was unchanged from then. Do we feel good about moving on there? All right, and then climate resilience, again, we had a really great discussion about that. This reflected our discussion. Does anybody have any questions about that or input, suggestions, etc.?
Seth, I do.
Yeah.
I think this is where council last night was seeking probably some more input regarding the effects of green infrastructure on, having resilient communities and flood control, flood prevention. This might be an area where we really need to put together some research for council this year. Certainly, I think Julia would be our best resource for that. So I don't know if she'd like to speak to that at all, but it was pretty clear last night that council has a lot of questions when it comes to how do we use green infrastructure.
Yeah, great point, Ned.
Can I?
Julia and then Melissa.
I attended the city council meeting, the one prior. So, and the intent when I was there was I was supposed to speak, but just the confusion of there wasn't like an official public comment period, or I didn't really know how to do that properly. and I wasn't invited to speak. So we kind of missed that opportunity in that time. So, but the best for me is to be, and I feel maybe this is relevant to all of us, like to be invited if there's a specific topic to a council meeting that is going to be addressed, that we as a sustainability member are invited officially to to at least speak at some point. That would
Well,
probably be
if I
really
may,
helpful.
if you're ever there, let me know and I can open the floor. I had no idea you were there.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
all. Yeah.
And then by the time I realized what was happening, it was it was too late. You had moved on. And I honestly just didn't know the official procedures to like butt in, or I can't like chat you, like I'm here. So I just didn't know what the most appropriate thing would be to be. But and then I guess it came up last night too. I'm happy to even just address questions tonight or separately on, in a meeting. I don't know. So yes.
I was going to mention something to Julia. A lot of times there are groups that come before council and they'll give a presentation, a PowerPoint or what have you on different things. Normally they'll go through the mayor's office, to get on the agenda, or clerk's office. You might want to talk to, someone in the mayor's office. They'll put the agenda together. It's all this panel. You got another idea on that? Because sometimes they'll ask, the mayor orchestrates the meeting. So if you're on the docket, there's like Julia Nordyke is going to speak on such and such, then you're there. You're on the docket rather than having to wheel and deal and try to get in at another part of the meeting.
All right,
I
Melissa, and then Alder Dorff.
I mean, that one thing that for me, just because of my position too, I do need to, I really should be invited to speak, because I'm not really representing just a member of the public on this. And then I don't know how it is with commission members in general. So, and it all came together kind of last minute. So it sounds like it came up again. The issues came up again last night. So, and I feel like when I heard the conversation during the 2 meetings ago, there was just a lot of misconceptions being, I thought the director Grenier did a really great job trying to lay things out. And I do think that there's just been some misconceptions about what green infrastructure is and what it isn't, and then how the best approach is for the city to move forward on it. So, I don't know. I'm more than willing to meet with anyone separately or come to the council meeting. If I can do a little mini presentation, if I know exactly what questions are being asked, those kind of things too. I mean, to be honest, you have the science based on what the Public Works Department has put together. But I can just kind of explain more in plain language, what their approach is and why that is probably the most appropriate way to, because it's comparable to what other communities are doing.
Well, Julia, last night, Ned Dorff was at the meeting and we opened the floor and he spoke. He's used to it. He understands that. So I'm saying you could have come to the meeting as well. If you were at the meeting, we would open the floor and then, anybody can speak at that time. Oh, well. Sorry.
It's okay. I don't think is it too late?
Yeah, it's too
Say
late.
something, Chair.
Okay.
This is
if
Alder
it's
Dorff.
in response to Julia, otherwise Melissa's been in stack next.
Okay, it was in response to Julia, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, then go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Julia, first of all, Alder Scannell is your representative on this commission. Anytime that you want to speak, you just need to let him know that. If you don't have a mom on council that you can text and say, could you please let the mayor know that, I'd like to speak. You don't have that, but you could text me anyway, and I'll give you my phone number. But yes, you just have to let somebody know, and then we will definitely open the floor. And Julia, I don't believe it is too late. I don't believe it is. Yes, I know it was voted down. We still have ARPA funds out there. Yes, I know that was technically voted down. However, I think there's this
reconsider.
motion. Yeah, motion to rescind the actions of
Rescind, yeah.
council. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've
There's a
learned
precedent
something
now.
now. So I don't think it might, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I would go to bat for it, but it could not be the disaster it was last night. It was an absolute disaster. So there has to be a plan that put together. And unfortunately, we have to have that ARPA stuff. And I don't think we only have 6 weeks. I don't know. We have 6 weeks. I talked to Director Grenier about it this morning. He gave me this timeline for when they have to put projects out for bid. I don't think you guys can come up with it that fast, but I will tell you, it is not too late. But it's also not too late for the general budget for 2023. So let's, really go to work on it. And anytime anybody wants to get to speak, you just get hold of Ned and he'll text me.
Yeah, I didn't, to be honest with, yeah, I know, sorry, Melissa, I didn't know texting was allowed either. So, but I only had 2 people's and I was like, I can't text. I didn't know that would be allowed either anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Melissa.
Okay, so I just do want everyone to know for the record, I invited Julia to the council meeting where those ARPA request funds were being discussed. And she even filled out an online public comment thing through the city's website. I alerted the clerk. So there were procedures followed. For some reason, it just didn't have, it fell through the cracks or something. I'm not really sure why the floor was not opened or the public was not recognized at that time.
The clerk doesn't have much to do with it, quite honestly.
If there's a form filled out, the clerk, if that goes to the clerk should notify that there's people in the room wanting to speak.
Yeah, but to be fair, to be fair to that, because I was gone all day and I came in like a half an hour late to your meeting, and that's when I filled out the form. So, well, I started filling out the form when I realized that no one knew that I was even there, and I was like, oh my gosh, they might, because I didn't have a chance to do it earlier in the day. So
the other thing I wanted to make mention of, and I know this is going back, and I don't want to rehash things, but in that ARPA memo that I wrote along with Director Grenier and Matt Heckenleibel for the ARPA requests, there was probably 7 or 8 different reference materials included with that memo from EPA, DNR, a lot of different case studies that have been done on green infrastructure. There is education material there. People need to read what they are given. And we are not making this stuff up. There's a lot of great data out there that other cities have followed, other counties have followed, cities much smaller than the city of Green Bay. So that's where I'm going to leave it at now. But I do want to say that staff have done a lot of work with supplying information, as well as Julia Nordyke maybe 2 years ago gave a presentation to council on green infrastructure. And on the green infrastructure code audit that the city has undertaken since then.
So I would just say, if it isn't, I'm still happy to come. To be honest with you, I would probably like I said, and Melissa just reiterated it, that all the information is there. If you need someone to come give a 10-minute presentation about what's in there to like plain language about, and have someone answer questions, I'm happy to still do that. And I'm absolutely more than happy to provide that.
We've got Ned, and then I'm gonna hop and stack.
I just wanted to say you could also raise the hand signal. That's another way to get attention on these meetings. But Melissa and Julia have done a ton of work over the last 2 years getting things to council. Thank you to both of you. I think council last night was looking at Steve to give some answers about what specifically the GI lines were for Van Buren Street, what exactly was going to be put in, and what the data would be. And I don't know that he had maybe understood that was what they were looking for, possibly.
I think it's like the wrong question that council was asking. and the whole purpose of what those projects are really doing. Those projects are pilot projects where is it completely appropriate so that the Public Works Department can learn how to design and the effectiveness of those types of practices. And then that in the future will lead to better design, which will reduce cost of construction and operation and maintenance cost. And it's completely, and green infrastructure itself is very, very site specific. And so, yes, it can help mitigate flooding, but not in every single case. And it's not going to solve all of Green Bay's flood problems either. Gray infrastructure costs a lot of money too. It's also very site specific, but this is very much like the technology is proven, but it's very site specific. So it's very appropriate that the Public Works would move forward and learn how to design it and be able to maintain it themselves for long-term cost savings.
My question here then, so Julia, you've presented to council in the past on a lot of the green infrastructure. Melissa included 7 or so studies within the proposal packet to go to committee. 2 weeks ago, our incomplete work plan was, recognized for not being data driven. And at both of the last 2 meetings, we had questions about the data. So if there's attention being paid to an incomplete work plan, was the same level of scrutiny given to the data that was presented both in Melissa's report, or were there actual questions asked when Julia presented? I know when John and Melissa and I spoke about the energy data, it was, John and Melissa did a great job with the technical stuff, but there was crickets in the room. So when we are giving the data, is that information being utilized? Because I was hearing a lot of questions at the last 2 meetings that there wasn't the data, but it seems that the data is being presented and it's not being looked at or it's not being presented on. So I don't know if we need to answer that question, but that's just a little bit of food for thought. Alder Andy.
Yeah, just one more thing too. I think for council, it's not only in the specifics here, but there was a lot of hammering, especially by Alder Johnson and a few others. They want a bigger picture. They want to have a concept of where we're going. And I don't know how I tried to deal with it,
So yeah, I heard that also 2 meetings ago also. And so my response is that we have to do both at the same time. We have to start with these demonstration projects and get things going because they take years. This all takes years. And then yes, we need to do more planning around green infrastructure in general. But right now our community is going under, Melissa's responsible for a climate resilience plan and a flood resilience plan, or climate action plan and a flood resilience plan. Like there's only so many things you can do at once, but to start thinking about and getting the implementation of the practices so they can be more efficient and like where they might go appropriately in the city is like a very, very normal start to how there's many ways to get to where we need to go and we need to start them basically. So.
All right, Ned and then Alder Steuer.
Based on what Julia has been saying, I'd like to propose that we put an action item in our grid underneath the actions for climate resilience, and that being that we propose pilot projects for the city council to take up regarding green infrastructure.
And it's reminding me, we have done some basic green infrastructure code analysis. If you remember, like we've had a grad student help with us. There's been another grad student helping with the forestry folks to look at urban canopy. So we have some resources. It's just like how many directions can we go at once is really the limiting factor. So
propose one pilot project. Would that be doable, Julia, this year?
No, I think the pilot projects are a great idea. Sorry, Ned. I was talking about more the planning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Ned, the way you said it was great, but I didn't have track changes on my draft. Can you repeat proposed pilot projects to
Proposed green
council?
infrastructure pilot project to the council as one of our action steps in the climate resilience grid.
I mean, I would go with what Public Works proposed. I mean, they've put a lot of work into that. So if it's the two projects, I mean, it's the two projects we're talking about, right? Because the true street projects.
Yeah, the Van Buren one failed last night. The stormwater pond at Seymour passed last night. I can't remember. Was there anything else last night?
A lot. Alderdorf.
Yes, both street projects failed. The stormwater had passed prior to that. And when you're done, then I have another possible comment, so I'll wait though. But
And then Ned, to your point, then I wrote proposed green infrastructure pilot projects to council in collaboration with Public Works, since they'll be really owning the work. Does that sound good to add to everybody? Seeing some nods. Cool, and the thumb. Cool. Alder Stoyer, you were on staff.
Just the comment I wanted to make was, I think what at council many times we're looking at projects and such, and it comes down to cost, it comes down to bonding, it comes down to a number of elements that way, and that seems to be the bottom line. So with that being said, with certain projects that come up out there, we need to know the cost benefit analysis of it. Is it going to be proficient for the city or not? So a lot of times it comes down to that bottom line, which is the budget. So if we can work that in somehow and make it cost effective, et cetera, then I'd say we're on the right track. So
All right.
that's it.
I'm glad I added that bit to the top then about fiscal impact. Alderdorf.
thank you. So more seriously about the possibility of reconsideration, I know there were two alders that probably came into that meeting last night intending to vote for the green infrastructure. And as a result of the conversation that happened, neither one of them did. And I know we do have our normal process of reconsideration. And I do think that could be a possibility, but they would need to have support from this group. They would need to have the data that was being asked for. And I had thought that flooding prevention was a reason for green infrastructure. We were told at the meeting last night by Director Grenier that it was not. And I think though he was maybe just referring to those two projects, but I did ask the broad question. I have had a discussion with Director Grenier today in which he said, I needed to tell you that you were right, and it does provide flood mitigation. So he has changed his position from last night. The data that we would need would be probably what you provided, but nobody understands it. It's kind of out of context. We're not you guys. You guys are smart about this stuff. I don't know enough about it, and others know way less. So is there any, the only time we can reconsider is at the very next meeting or the same meeting. That's the only time. So if I were to approach either of these people and ask them to do that, what can you do to help? That would be my question, because I wouldn't want to go to them without saying, here's your support package for this. And Alder Scannell, you look confused, but I hope, no, you're good with what I'm saying? Alder Stoyer, you good with what I'm saying? Okay, all right, so I'll shut up, and what can you do to help?
Awesome. Melissa?
Staff question. For data, these projects, now we do have one project that we have some modeling data on, and it's not one that we've discussed so far because I'm in the process of applying for a grant for it on Eliza Street. But the other projects are not fully designed yet, so we don't have the total suspended solid reductions calculated. We don't have the runoff reductions calculated or the phosphorus reductions. Is that the data they're looking for, or what is the data that they're looking for?
Should I answer?
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
I believe, and then any other alder can chime in too. What I was hearing last night is you want us to invest money in completely unproven projects. Show us that these have worked somewhere. There must be data somewhere. There must be something you can tell us that we're just not investing it because we hope that this might help. Now, I understand now that more of the reason was around pollution and preventing pollution, but it was presented originally as flood mitigation, and that's what we were hanging our hats on. And then those of us that were kind of looked like idiots last night because we were told, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. And we really, the good thing that happened was the explanation about how it helps with the pollutants and, you know, that it gets, that keeps them out of the groundwater. But they're still, they want data that says if we invest the taxpayers' money in this project, what will we get back that will make it worth the money we're investing? Alders, are you, nod your head if you think that's what they were saying.
Well, yeah, to a point. I think a lot of people are interested in this GI. I really do. I think that we're just at a kind of a threshold, just trying to figure out, okay, is there a project out there that'll work? It's like anything else. It's like, show me. And I realize that you're saying that it's going to take some time before these projects really come, that you really can tell if they're effective or not. But, I mean, we look at all things like, types, we were talking about Colburn Park, putting in a parking lot, and we were talking about using green infrastructure type asphalt. Like I said, there's different materials out there. So I think over time, if we can be educated to other ways of doing some green type initiatives or projects, and the costs might be, fairly equitable that way, I'm all for it. So, we just need to get a taste or a feel for it. And I think we're all in a transitional stage right now. It's not like we're totally ignorant, but we're not totally educated yet either. So I'm somewhere in the middle, but I'm definitely willing to listen, and I'll chip in and help where I can.
And may I say that probably the only thing that would work would be if we picked one of the projects that was voted down. I don't think we should go for both of them. I truly don't. But if we picked one of them that was voted down, and tried to get any information about data that would support that type of project anywhere. We're not talking about data here. We didn't do the project yet here, but we're talking about data anywhere. One of those two projects is the only thing we can really reconsider.
Julia, and then Alder Andy.
Yeah, I'm happy to work with Melissa after this, and if you think it would be helpful to do a shorter presentation based on like what might help give a better, bigger picture, how this fits into the bigger picture, and then also the direct benefits from this particular project in terms of water quality and quantity issues that it could address, I would be happy to do that.
You see, you could put this as an action item on this agenda. Sustainability could come before we get to finance, and then we could move to reconsider, right?
When is
the meeting? Will be in 2 weeks. Yeah, like, that's it. That's
sorry.
If it can't be done, fine, let's wait a year. I was just throwing out a little thread of hope, and maybe that's just not realistic. And I don't have control. I got to throw myself on the mercy of an alder that voted no. So, but I'm not going to even ask unless there's something here.
On the 3rd, or is it Tuesdays?
It's always Tuesdays except after an election day. So it's
March 1st is our next council meeting.
March 1st is our next council meeting.
6 o'clock.
Let's
just
do it.
Throwing it out there.
I think we absolutely should do that. I would just need some guidance on what motion or process to entertain right now. Or would it just be a matter of one of those alders moving to reconsider their vote and then getting on the agenda?
No.
You guys on your sustainability report, which will be on the council agenda, would have an action item that I could call or Randy could call or whatever. It would have nothing to do with what I'm talking about. That's under a different part. That's going to be under the bonding part. All yours would say was, okay, you guys help, but like,
An action report on, it would be about, well, whichever project, do we have is there?
pick
something
which
else?
one.
Which project do you think would be the best one to go with? Or does it a coin toss?
I think that would probably, to be honest, it would be better to talk with Melissa after this and figure out, like, look through both of them. I don't know,
Okay.
unless you, based on the meetings, you have a favorite. I don't know. But I would look at like what each of them are. They sounded very similar to me.
Okay.
Is that
I
correct?
think we absolutely have to pick one in this meeting, so it's posted on the report, that it would be a report that would be the discussion or approval, the discussion of the data surrounding the blah, blah, blah type projects in other communities, so that you could get a really rich discussion about, and I could pull it and ask for you to talk, and then you would talk about why this type of project has worked in other places. We can't be after the meeting because then it can't be on the council agenda. This is
I
it.
see.
This is the only meeting. So
Where are they? Where? Go ahead, Melissa, please.
I was gonna
I
ask-
don't know where they're located. Is there one in a district that is more, is it close? Is there one that's more, has a better location?
can't
I
remember.
don't think it matters from the city end. It's from which you think is most beneficial to the city for whatever it's designed to do. And if that doesn't, if it's 50-50 or whatever, then maybe take it to, is one a little cheaper than the other? It'd be strictly, from the council end, I don't think there's any indication at all as to what project is better or best or anything. I think it's a blank there from the council end. So it's just on our end, looking at them from a climate view, from what we think would be best for the city and most likely to get through with. Cost might be a factor we want to take into it or not. If one is definitely better climate-wise, then I don't think the cost matters. So it's just those kind of decisions from our end. I don't think we have to worry about trying to second guess what the council wants, because this council doesn't know.
what are the two projects? I can't remember. What are the two
And
projects?
Van Buren, was Van Buren one, and what was the other one? I don't remember.
Eliza?
Eliza.
But
Melissa,
what
do
are
you have
the
an opinion
costs?
on-
I'm trying to find the
So
cost.
last night, though, you're talking about the projects last night or going back to
Yeah.
the original ARPA request? Those projects.
Well, those were the same projects that were on
Yep.
last night.
So in the
ARPA
ARPA
projects.
request, it was Roosevelt,
Okay.
Right.
Van Buren,
Mhm.
and there's two Van Burens. There's two sections of Van Buren. The Van Buren that I think was in the ARPA request was the one that is in Alder Galvin's area. Maybe they
Mhm.
both are. Okay. And then the
Okay.
third one,
GI memo to council.
I gotta
I
find
did.
my
The third
memo.
one is rain barrels. The third one is rain barrels. It
And we
passed.
passed
That
that.
one
Yeah,
passed.
don't worry about
Yeah,
that.
one
It's
passed.
just those.
Which is
and keep-
ironically the one that's the least hydraulically,
Of course.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
effective.
It's
Just so you're
because it was
aware, like-
such a
It was the
low
one I knew the
dollar
most
amount.
about, so I pitched it and it went.
It was a sympathy vote for us losing, I think. But all right, so Melissa, can you please pull up? I can't find my ARPA stuff right here.
Let me
But which
give
one
it a
was less
second.
expensive? We need probably, don't you guys think? Possibly the least expensive one?
Well,
I don't know.
and this
I
one
think
is
there's-
definitely
no, I-
better for
One
the
at a
environment.
time, one
Well,
at a
it's-
time.
Sorry.
Don't make me
It's
get the
crazy.
gavel out.
I'm down.
Julia, then Randy.
The only thing I said, cost is a factor, but there's many other things about green infrastructure that are beneficial to the community. So I guess, and then also I don't know, I would go with something which I would really lean on what Public Works thinks is the best place, because this is a demonstration project again to understand how it works well in the city of Green Bay. And the best, so I think there's many factors, but those are a couple of them. Cost is one, but not really the only one.
All right, Randy.
I was gonna say cost should be the last factor. I would only factor it in at the end. If it, I think the environmental and public works input, whichever one works best, even if it costs more, I think it's gonna be better to sell. I would only take costs into the equation if it's 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, my 2 cents, if we can only do one project, which one is going to have the most measurable impact? If the question is this worth it? And we get one swing at it, which is going to give us the data to determine whether or not this is an actual viable thing.
I found them.
And doing so in a flood prone area. So we've got Alder Stoyer, Alder Dorf.
All right, I'll let Alder Dorf speak on that in a minute, but I was saying, for example, if we took Van Buren, we have 3 alders here now, and we know the other alders as well, and we can talk to 1 or 2 here and there about things, and if we have more information, I think we can be more effective. So it's just knowledge, just getting information out, that type of thing. And Alder Scannell said cost is the last thing, but it's important. We do look at that. So, if it's beneficial to the city, if we can find a cost benefit analysis or something that'll say, in 3 years, this will really take care of this. And, I think a lot of people in the city, a lot of cities want instant results. They want to see things happen right away, but a lot of times it takes time. So we have to make sure that people understand that as well. So I'm done.
All right, Alder Dorf.
Thank you. I did find both projects and the descriptions. Would it be helpful to you if I talk about that? I don't know how to share a screen or anything like that, but what would you like me to do, Seth?
Yeah, if you just want to, or Melissa, if you can give, you're on mute, Melissa.
I did find those original ARPA request forms that grant administrator Susan House had during those meetings. So I don't know what you have, Alder Dorf.
That's what I have. That's
Okay.
what I pulled up.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, I think that would be great. It's 15-001, right? And then 15-002.
Let's see here. I really have to figure out how to get better at this. Okay, the first one I'm going to bring up is Roosevelt.
Okay. Oh, I guess I got to go back to Zoom now.
Let me know if you can fully see this.
Mm-hmm. Looks
I
good.
am- Oh, man. I can't get it. No. There we go.
Requested amount for Roosevelt was $360,000. Biofiltration systems installed in the street terrace of Roosevelt. And then, let me see, it's kind of hard to read all of this in this little cell.
I have a different view, unfortunately, which is, yeah, I do, which is a bigger view, but I can't share it, so. I could quickly read the paragraph if you want me to.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay, I have the project summary. The biofiltration systems installed in the street terrace of Roosevelt Street stormwater runoff enters the system through a curb inlet opening or pipe, flows through a specially designed filter media mixture contained in a landscape concrete container. The filter media captures and immobilizes pollutants. Those pollutants are then decomposed, volatilized, incorporated into the biomass of the system's macrofauna and flora. Stormwater runoff flows through the media and into an underdrain system at the bottom of the container where the treated water is discharged. Project area is in a qualified census tract as social vulnerability index rating of 0.917, which indicates a high level of vulnerability. And the project outcomes would be pollutant reduction, water quality improvement, stormwater runoff reduction, aesthetic appeal, and pollinator habitat. So that would be the first one for $360,000. And what they would be saying are, and what they were saying was, well, how much stormwater runoff reduction, how much pollutant reduction, what would the water quality improvement be? Why is it worth it to have the pollinator habitat or the water quality improve? So those would be some questions that they would want to see, not just answers to, but data from somewhere else where this happened. And I know that's probably very difficult, if not impossible to find.
I don't think so.
You don't think it's impossible to find?
Not something that I think we can find something at least that would be the best we can do, that would potentially be acceptable amount of information to get to the point. I mean, does that make sense? There are many projects, as Melissa mentioned, throughout Wisconsin. Wisconsin has very good standards for designing these projects in general also. We have potentially modeling, like GIS modeling, that kind of can give us a quick and dirty kind of just look at what the potential, like based on the size and the location could help, just to give you a better just idea of like what the benefits are overall, for sure.
Okay, well, that was the first one. And then I have the second one right here. Would you like to hear that one? It's a little different.
Sure.
All right, this is the Van Buren Street. This is about $200,000 more, $570,000. Installation of 850 feet of permeable pavement and biofiltration systems on Van Buren Street from East Mason Street to Stewart Street. The biofiltration systems will be in the street terrace, planted with native vegetation. This type of GI filters pollutants from stormwater, reduces the quantity of stormwater entering the storm sewer system. Permeable pavement catches water where it falls and allows stormwater and snowmelt to infiltrate into a subsurface storage layer. And again, it's in these qualified areas. And what project outcomes are: water quality improvement, stormwater runoff reduced, and aesthetic appeal. So those are the two. They do about the same thing. Which one could we get more data on? That's probably the best question.
Well, and the second one offers two different types of green infrastructure: the biofiltration and the permeable pavement in the parking lane.
And I would argue, see, for that one, I sent Melissa some information, but a while ago, La Crosse did a study of precipitation and using green infrastructure, and they found permeable pavement to be one of the most effective things in La Crosse.
I have to interrupt you. I'm so sorry, Julia, because Steve Grenier shot that down completely last night. We brought it up, Ned brought it up, and Steve Grenier said, they have sand, we have clay, it will not work here. So no one's going to believe La Crosse. So I don't want you to even think about that, okay?
Okay. And the other thing about trying those out is, at least for the two different ones, is that I kind of lost my train of thought there.
I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to go on.
That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
They're both road projects, right? I mean, you are getting a road, which is also a priority of these projects, or the city in general also. So you're getting green infrastructure and a road together, which is a pretty good combination. Just rather than just a road, or like a road, or a storm sewer drain. So,
but it costs more than a regular road.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It's adding
they have the figures.
cost. However, and I think Steve made this clear during previous meetings, but we're planning these pilot projects in conjunction with road reconstruction projects that were already planned. And that's going to help save the money city, because we have a plan, we have a road reconstruction plan. It's not like we're just saying, hey, let's go out and put green infrastructure someplace. I mean, we have to tear up the road anyway. So we're
So
saving
I
on
don't-
construction costs by
Yeah,
integrating that into road reconstruction plans.
and I don't know if like that kind of cost savings is like calculated within the cost benefit, because it is, you are getting a better deal by doing two things at once rather than, and you're getting a road and stormwater at the same time. So I don't know how that it can be or it has been calculated.
The answer to that would be that the opposition had clear calculation on how much more this would cost than gray, and gray is good enough. And so, and then there was no one there that had this knowledge to say what you just said. There was Director Grenier wasn't able to say that for whatever reason. Nobody knew that. I didn't know that. So nobody said that. So I don't know. I think it was said in the past. It sounds familiar, but no one said it last night.
I think it'd be good to know how much it would cost to pave it gray, and then you'd see the difference there. Or you'd be able to calculate, say, this road is going to cost this much anyway. It's going to cost this much more to do this green infrastructure, and this is the benefits to the green infrastructure. It's a pilot. We're going to be getting information, and that'll lower costs in the future and everything else.
And Weary had that information last night. Weary brought exactly the figures up of how much more it would cost to do this. And it got voted down again, because we didn't have this information,
We got to put it all together,
Yeah.
together.
Put it all together.
Alder Story.
Sorry, we're taking over a little bit here today, but we're excited about this. I mean, we'd like to see some things happen, so we're just interested in helping here. The Van Buren project, it's 584, whatever it was, but just the fact that and maybe I knew this or didn't know it, but just the fact, Julia, that you mentioned that the street projects or the street project was going to be done anyhow. So if you can piggyback on that, and then if there's some other benefits that we can get from this project, like, the type of materials that are used, anything that would, that we could utilize in the future, if we could succeed at one pilot project and see all the different benefits we can get from it, that'll go a long way to helping with other projects as well.
All right, Corey.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the whole maintenance aspect too with these projects, and is one more maintenance intensive, and maybe just something to consider for green infrastructure in general moving forward. Would we maybe want to choose one project over the other to help reduce costs or to help learn how to maintain something? But it's, I think, just another piece of the puzzle that we should be thinking about.
So do we have any thoughts then on which project would be better to recommend? My opinion is if there's one that has multiple features, like the Van Buren project, that's going to demonstrate a lot more possibilities of green infrastructure. But do other folks have thoughts?
I just was curious. I mean, Alderman Dorf, you said we really need to pick one. Would it not be just kind of presenting what each of those, the benefits are, and then letting the council kind of make their own judgments about which one's more appropriate for the city?
I wish I could say yes to that.
Yeah, it's a flip of the coin.
I don't think I can say yes to that because we didn't have good listeners. Did we, Alder Scannell?
I don't know, in a way, that might be a better way to go, because then we could get Grenier's input too. And that's what we're going to miss from this meeting, is his input. We're not going to get that tonight, and we would like to go forward tonight. So maybe that is the way to go. And then he gets his input, and the alders get a choice of, get to decide. If we can get them to where they'll agree to do one and they got a choice, that empowers them. I think that maybe that is the way to go.
And from my perspective, they have one of the features is in both of them. They're very similar. So it would be really presenting two features. You have the permeable piece and then the filtration with the pollinators. I mean, and then people can really kind of see what the benefits of each of those are.
No?
Thank
How
you.
much is it more work? I'm sorry.
Wrong Dorf.
Yeah, excitable girl.
So I'd like to direct this question to Alder Stoyer. I think that Alder Stoyer has come in with a pretty balanced approach, seeing things on two different sides of this. And I would like to know, what would it take for Alder Stoyer to reconsider?
No, he voted with us.
I voted.
He
You
did.
voted in favor last night. Okay. I wasn't clear on that then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had to double check some things because we had so many votes last night, and sometimes it gets a little hairy.
Sure.
To be honest, we're good, but not always great.
Then
Work on somebody. We could work on somebody else.
work on somebody else. Got it. I would like to see both reconsidered. There's the way that I guess we could write it into our. We had one item for action tonight, and that was to reconsider our plan. I guess we could take it into there as like part of the plan is to petition council to reconsider using the money on the two green infrastructure projects that failed last night. And then in between now and then, connect Julia with whoever else was sitting on the fence on those last night. I feel like Alder Sawyer said that arguments were presented and one side wasn't strong enough, and that was me, right? That was my testimony, and I think if we have a little more somebody with a background like Julia, man, I would love to see both of those projects go into my neighborhood, being that we live in one of the most flood-prone areas in the city, to get some work on Van Buren and get some work on Eliza as well. And furthermore, we have such those steep inclines into both rivers. When you split off of Webster there, we're sending a lot of runoff to both rivers. So I don't want to lose either one of those projects. That's my thought.
I was going to just tell Seth, you mentioned something about that this committee is going to be looking to have legislation done and talking to different folks. I mean, this is part of it right here. So that could be part of your plan, that you're going to be going after legislators, whether they're local, state, federal, whatever, to try to get your points across. So this is one way to do that if it's part of your report.
Yeah. Alder Dorf.
Thanks. My question before was going to be, but how is it possible to do enough work on two things for the data to be gathered and such, instead of just focusing on one thing? Because the timeline is quite short, and everything would have to be in that Friday prior to council, because that's when the agenda is posted and the information needs to be to council by that Friday. So we don't even have 2 weeks. We have a week from tomorrow, basically. That's it.
Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
I couldn't recall, did both projects have pollinator plantings or just one? They both did.
I feel like they're the same pollinator, they're the same filtration with pollinators in both. And then the one that's more expensive, why it's more expensive is it's also permeable pavement. So they're just, and so basically those trenches will be designed the same. Just
okay. Because my thought was going to be, if there wasn't one with pollinator plantings, that perhaps since we have the pollinator corridor work group and stuff, that could tie in. Plus, I think just visually, people might be noticing a difference versus just the pavement probably doesn't look much different, you know? But since it's in both, that's great.
And I do think, you know, providing some examples and like what these things would look like potentially, it will be quite helpful. And to answer Alderwoman Dorf's question, I think that I will work with Melissa and we'll just do the best we can. I don't know if to be honest with you, I don't know if the information we'll collect is gonna be sufficient or not but we'll do the best we can. I mean, they've collected a lot of information already, like we've mentioned. So I think it's just pulling some pieces together in a more coherent story and then being able to answer some of those more direct questions.
I have a question then. So that's awesome. I love where this is going. I can only imagine there are numerous members of the public who would like to state their support for reconsidering this, since we've had instances in the past where the public has shown up and not been recognized. Alder Dorf, can we text you, or what's the best process?
No, just let us know ahead of the meeting you're going to be there, but we need to know the names, because all we can see are the names or someone, but it would be at the time appropriate, which would be under this, would it be under the sustainability report, Randy and Mark, or under the finance? Because we're not going to do the motion to reconsider till we get to finance, right?
It might go through finance, but you know what, either way, you're going to see it on the agenda. You can tell when it's going to be, whether it would be under sustainability or under finance. I'm not 100% sure on that.
What I'm saying is the report might be under sustainability.
Right.
Right.
We haven't made the motion to reconsider yet, so that's not going to be on, but that is the point at which it would be made. And that is the point at which the public would be allowed to talk, I believe, or possibly the public could talk during the sustainability report and just give their opinions. What do you think, Alder Scanlon?
Well, I think it doesn't matter where, we just pick a spot and then we open the floor. So it's where we're going to do some action. I think we need, I don't know. I mean, is it the finance where we're going to actually be doing some action? The sustainability is just going to be a report out. I don't think there's going to be any kind of, unless we're doing a petition, as Ned suggested. And I don't know how that.
We have such complicated processes.
It is. I think
It's so complicated. I believe it would be under finance, because I'm going to check with finance, but I chair finance. Ooh, so I can get an item on the agenda possibly for the next finance meeting. So, but I believe it's going to be under finance, and it will be under the bonding request, because that's where we have to take it from. Not our the bonding, putting it back into bonding. We got that wiggle room now because we did reduce by about 300,000, remember? Last night when I said, let's just stop now. So, we've got, well, if we go back to where we were, we'd be right in there with that one project. So I think it would be under finance. All I need to know is who, that there's just somebody that wants to speak. Just somebody can email me, somebody can email Randy, Mark, just say there is someone here that wants to speak on sustainability. And then when that comes up, we will say we have citizens out there. We'd like to make a motion to open the floor. So it doesn't have to be that night. It shouldn't, it could be like right before the meeting. I always check my email, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we should be able to, long before it's on the agenda, we should be able to know what duck is where. And if we know someone's going to speak at council, we can just open the floor. I mean, and we can move it up so that people don't have to wait forever. And when we open the floor, then I should think whoever's going to be speaking will know this is their time to jump in.
Yeah, and if they don't come, they're not there, then we just close the floor.
I think I'm going to count on, we're coming up with a plan here. Someone's going to be there. hopefully more than someone. I think we can get a few people. And then
This
that way,
whole
if something
commission.
happens and one doesn't show, we still got others, and
How do you work that? How do you work it though, as far as timing of, a lot of times when a presentation is made at council, it's done toward the beginning of the meeting. If you want to have a lot of people speak for sustainability, I think it would be good to speak earlier on before it gets down to finance, unless you think differently.
I think differently because I don't think we need any presentation. I think we need support for the motion. That would include people being allowed to speak, given their 3 minutes. We might ask for grace and get 5 minutes because you don't get a lot of time to speak. But I don't think there should be this big formal presentation because,
Well, that's a good point.
right? We're trying to convince them to do something in that moment, which is hopefully if we can get an alder to do a reconsideration. And we don't know that till the meeting. Oh, we don't know.
We can't talk about that ahead of time, Barb?
We can talk about it. But
To some other alder, if we could say, would you reconsider?
And they
I think
might
they'll move
agree, but they might change their mind. Alders change their mind before meetings. I've seen it
Yeah.
happen, but yeah,
Well-
we absolutely, I'm going to talk about it before the meeting and someone else will. And, but we just need to get that motion to consider. But I have something else to add when we're done with this little part here.
Okay. Julia?
I'm not sure exactly how where this is going, but I just want to be really pretty clear about my ability and where I see this is I do think as in my position, I cannot just come and advocate for a certain position in general. So I can come and present science-informed information and give you an understanding of like what the projects are, like informationally wise. And I truly believe that will need some visuals that would go into a presentation. I mean, I can put it in the material that would go into the materials for sure too, but the public would maybe like to see that too,
Yeah,
I mean, okay, but you were saying that we shouldn't
Well,
have
that could work. That could
Well,
work if we do that under sustainability, and then we need the other thing too.
Yeah, I was picturing we would have Melissa and Julia do a very informational presentation about the merits of the projects, the data, etc., the things that people were asking for last night. But then at some point before there's a vote, I'm going to tell everybody I know to show up to this meeting to make sure that science prevails essentially. So I think that's the two separate things, but I would agree with Julia that a formal presentation would be what the folks that were skeptical would need to change their minds.
I'm not sure how we can do that though, because we need the reconsideration for any of it to work. Of course, we could make it a presentation, even if there isn't a reconsideration, the presentation is worthwhile going forward to next year.
Yes.
So we could make this as from the Sustainability Commission, we want to do a presentation. We can make the presentation part of the sustainable report. That could be done at the beginning of the meeting on, make the presentation, and it's for giving the council information to move forward, whether it'll be really soon with a reconsideration or next year.
So when we finish editing this document, we will make a motion to approve, send to council, and ask that we be given the opportunity to present it at the meeting, and that will allow us to do that. Should we expand our proposed green infrastructure pilot projects to be specific about the two that we are recommending?
You almost have to. You're gonna have to have that warning. Yeah.
And you're probably going to want to talk to the mayor's office too, if we're doing a presentation.
I'll just text him right now, but go ahead. Keep talking.
Well, I think, he may have ideas on how that should be done. I mean, he's chairing the meeting. So I think if we're going to be doing a presentation, we need to get the mayor's office involved.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to change that action language then to propose green infrastructure pilot projects at Van Buren and Roosevelt to council in collaboration with Public Works. Does that get where we need to go?
Seth, are you talking about the action item for the motion or
In the language of the plan, just being
in
specific
the language of
about
the
what,
plan? Okay,
yeah. But then when we pass this plan, then we will say, pass the 2022 work plan to council and present at the next meeting. Because it gives us an opportunity to tell them about the rest of our things too briefly. But this, you know, the data can be the meat and potatoes, which that's what the people want. Let's give it to them.
Just as a question to Melissa, and thank you for correcting me on the Roosevelt thing. I know that Melissa had brought up the Eliza project as well. Is that something we'd like to include in here? It's
the
all-
Eliza Street project is also a pilot project, and we're applying for grant funds for that. So, Ned, is your question, should we include the mention of the Eliza Street project in our work plan? Or,
Yeah, that's my question.
well, I mean, there's other projects too that we looked at for green infrastructure. So I don't know if we need to name everything individually, because what if it gets voted down or something and they say, well, everything was in that. I don't know. I'm just thinking ahead, and you know, if we get the grant, it's
It
a
could just be
non-matching grant.
informational. You could just make it informational.
Okay.
Anyway,
I think we should be specific and stay focused. We shouldn't, you know, we can make it as our chair mentioned, you know, provide some other context and some other thing, you know, what we're doing. But I don't think we need to, I wouldn't start raising up all other different kinds of projects. I think we're just going to muddy the waters. We want to focus on these two projects that we want action on, or at least, yeah, and hopefully sooner than later. But if it's going to be later, then it's later. At least we're starting to get that information out.
I agree.
So then to not limit it in the work plan, I will add including ones to Van Buren and Roosevelt, rather than just having it suggest that those are the only ones. Well, it sounds like
Chair, I have to leave. I have to leave now. Thank you for the meeting. I got another appointment I got to go to, but
all right. Thank you.
we're here to help. We're here to
Yeah,
help.
Thanks for bringing the hype.
Okay.
Cool. Alder.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, because we have a director here, a parks director. And so I don't want to be stepping on another director's toes, which is Director Grenier. I have let him know that what we're doing, and I have let him know that please hop on a computer if you can. But Director Ditchite, do you think, what other action might I take? You know, just because he's a pretty important director. I don't want to be, you know, I don't know, Dan, give me some direction.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, as you guys mentioned several times, I think it's really important to get Steve's opinion on which of the two projects should be the top priority. I think it's a good idea to request to do a presentation in advance, maybe early on in the council, just so that you can give some background information on biofilters, permeable pavement, and just do some educational information topics early on in the meeting. And then as part of this, I guess if the Sustainability Commission agenda item falls after the Finance Committee agenda, then at the beginning of the meeting, you should, I would recommend that you amend the agenda to bump the Sustainability Commission agenda first, so that it can take into account any suggested changes to the Finance Committee, so that at least that gets discussed prior to the Finance Committee. So I think you have a good game plan moving forward. But I do think, like I started at the beginning, that this is getting Director Grenier's opinion is key on this. And without getting his opinion and getting him on board with this game plan moving forward, I think it's going to be difficult to get it approved. So that's my 2 cents.
Think 100%. That's what I was looking for. And I've already begun doing that. So thank you.
Cool. Well, it sounds like we have a game plan. Julia, did you have something on this? Your hands up. Oh, still. All right, cool. Anything else on this presentation and next steps there, or just more broadly on the work plan, which I never thought would turn out to be such an exciting discussion.
I do have one question. Has all that ARPA funding been delegated already, and would other projects be taken? Okay, great.
But we're not looking at ARPA. We're looking at bonding right now, not
I see.
ARPA.
I see. Okay.
Cool. Any other thoughts on this category, climate resilience and adaptation? Cool. Wonderful discussion. Moving on then to I did to the next category. I did my best to capture the really good conversation from last meeting. The only thing that was left a little unresolved was the name of that that issue area. So do we have thoughts on that, or on the goal and other pieces here?
I can talk. I read back through our minutes from last meeting when we were talking about that. A lot of it came down to healthy habitat. A lot of it came down to land, air, and water. So I think, healthy habitat could be what we change that to. Or to give a nod to Aldo Leopold, we could change it to the land ethic, which I always love.
Hey.
I'd be interested to hear what other people think, as far as maybe narrowing it down to one of those 2 or 3 options.
Other thoughts on that?
My only suggestion is to pick something that people, when they hear it, they know what you're talking about. And unfortunately, I don't think land ethic is that thing. I mean, you're in circles that do know what that is, but I don't think across the board that it's like wouldn't know what you'd have to read into it.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, so healthy habitat sounds like the front runner, and we can have that be our internal branding for it. Cool. Other thoughts on this category? Did I capture everything?
There were a lot of great suggestions for partners and funding opportunity in the minutes. I don't know if we need to necessarily add all those at this time, but if we ever need to kind of look back at what people said, they're in those minutes from last week or last month.
Cool. Corey? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if the title of the work group could perhaps include ecological preservation and restoration, because I think the importance of preserving what we have beyond the restoration efforts too could be a nice addition.
I think, to go to your point and to Julia's point, we could, just because ecological restoration is something like you and I are familiar with, but probably not a great term for the general public, healthy habitat might be more of a general term we're familiar with. But in our in the second column, instead of just saying to create connected, productive, and safe habitat corridors, we could say to create and preserve, to get to that point that we do have some great habitat already, and we want to keep it strong.
That sound good with folks?
I would agree with that.
Yes.
Cool. All right, other thoughts on? Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I also kind of like the idea of like habitats for people and the animals and plants. You know what I mean? I think when we think habitats, we're just thinking about animals usually, but I think it's both. So I don't know how to put that into words eloquently, but just thought.
I agree. I think that brings us back to the land ethic where we include people, animals, plants, non-living. Yes, I do. I do. I think healthy habitat for all would include people.
Oh, add for all.
Yeah.
Add for, I didn't have that in the track changes. Awesome. Other thoughts? All right, moving right along then. Waste reduction. So I had talked to Mark. I think he wasn't at the last meeting also, but we had connected prior to the last meeting about potentially establishing a pilot program for organic material or compost, something that he has, as we all know, a ton of knowledge on, and it seems to be something that he would be willing to do the work on. That was my big question for him: is, are we putting this on paper to have somebody else do? And he seemed committed. You know, it's easy to volunteer him when he's not here, but he did say that it was a project he would be willing to really lead, and does have the expertise. So I think the overall goal, you know, as we've heard from him, most waste in landfills is organic waste. So establishing a pilot program to identify, you know, end use location. So this could be a lot of things, but basically it would either be a drop-off site or a curbside compost site. There are lots of potential partners. I think this is something that he would really own and further develop, but this is what he had sent me. So do we have any thoughts on that? Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And then, so moving down below, the criteria for taking on new issues, the very last bullet point was added during our last meeting. Otherwise, that hasn't changed. This last section is completely new, though. We had a really great discussion about principles about involving the community, having a bigger web presence, centering equity, racial justice issues. It came up in council meetings and throughout the course of our conversation that our work should be rooted in data and research and also fiscal responsibility. So rather than shoehorning another goal that is really a part of all of our work, I did just take the liberty to add these different principles that we should really be considering for every single thing that we take on. So I don't know if folks have gotten a chance to read that, but basically, you know, we are the community, but we also know that anything that we're going to be doing should involve the community. We should actively seek and create pathways for involvement. There's a lot of ways we can do that. I'm a community organizer at heart, so you know, that part seems like a great potential. Any thoughts on that bullet point? Public outreach and awareness. I think this gets to, I think Ned had raised this, amplifying our work in the digital space, especially, you know, working with city staff and with members on the commission to just, you know, update the web page occasionally. We have a social media page and just get relevant work out when necessary. And that one really goes hand in hand with community involvement. Any thoughts, Sarah? Cool. And then racial justice and equity. Most of the time when people are impacted by pollution, they're already the most marginalized in our society. So I think we need to strive to see those intersections between race and class and environmental impacts. and center that in our work, but also make sure that the folks that are most impacted are the folks that are part of the solutions. I mean, when you're closest to the problem, you're going to have the best ideas for solutions oftentimes. So do we have any thoughts about that? And then data and research driven, if that's not been the key to, or the theme to our night, I don't know. Do we have any qualms with this? And then finally, making sure that our decisions are saving money in the long term, recognizing that the upfront cost to a lot of our initiatives is somewhat prohibitive and that we need to be, I guess, creative and smart to balance those upfront costs with the long-term payoff. Any questions, concerns there? John?
Seth, I just want to bring up, I think a lot of these issues we've talked about or brought into our discussions over time. I'm just very appreciative that you've actually put it down on paper. So I agree with all of these.
Cool, thanks, John. My job was really easy because y'all have the good ideas and I just take notes. So thank you all for a really robust discussion. All right, so then if we have no other additions to this, we'll entertain a motion to approve our annual work plan and present it to council at our next meeting.
So moved.
We
By
want to
Alder
see
Randy.
approve as amended.
Approve as amended. Yep, that would be good. Is that good, Randy? With
Yep.
the motion?
Yep,
All
that'll
right.
be the motion.
And then seconded by John. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, we got ourselves a work plan. We took a year off, but we're back in 2022. Thanks, everybody. Moving on then to the next section, informational staff updates for pesticide policies for city operation. Dan, thank you for hanging on the call. I think this is you.
Yes, I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to update on where we sit with this. I know this was discussed many months ago, at least 6 months ago, I would guess, that the city create a policy for park operations as it relates to pesticides and herbicides. So just want to give you an update of where we sit with things. So since that time, I've worked with Melissa and we've reached out to a lot of communities to see what their policies are. So we've gathered a lot of data, gathered a lot of policies that we can pull from. And just to give you a little bit of background here, the Parks Department does not have a written policy in place as far as it goes towards pesticides and herbicide applications. We do kind of best management practices, but we don't have a written policy. So what I'm proposing moving forward here is I think over the next month or so, I'll be able to work with Melissa and put together a policy incorporating some of the information from some of the other municipalities and create a written policy tailored to the Green Bay Parks Department. And what we'll do is we'll put that policy together, kind of highlighting and detailing what we're currently doing. And also, if there's things that we can be doing better, we'll incorporate those into the plan. And then about a month from now, I'll bring the plan forward to the Sustainability Commission, and we can talk about the plan. At that point, it won't be an approved plan or an approved policy that has been brought forward to the Parks Department or to the Parks Committee. So we'll bring it to the Sustainability Commission first. Talk about the plan and what we're currently doing and how we're doing things. And if there's a desire to make some changes or modifications to that policy, we can discuss it at that time. But it's hard to discuss the merits of what we're doing and how we're doing things if you don't have a plan in front of you detailing that procedure. So that's what I would recommend moving forward, is we'll bring a plan or a policy together or we'll pull a policy together, bring it to your committee for review. And then hopefully we can come to some agreement as far as what your committee would like to see, and in relation to what we can actually maintain in our Parks Department. And so once we get a policy in place that we're all happy with, we'll then bring it to the Parks Committee to formally adopt that policy.
Dan, can I ask you a couple questions on that
Sure.
one? Thanks for hanging around for so long just
Sure.
to let us know. So I appreciate you taking that on at the Parks Department. So the intent behind this is not just to apply to the parks. So I just wanted to get your feedback on that this would also apply to the other departments in the city, especially DPW, because they have the other big chunks of land. But really all departments of the city. Is that what your intent is with drawing this up as well?
That was not my original intent. I didn't know that was the desire of this committee. So I can have some discussions at senior staff level and figure out the best route to proceed. But, at least in the short term, the Parks Department can put together their policy. I may have to reach out to other departments, and maybe this citywide policy, maybe we'll have to implement it for each department separately, where every department would have to put a little section into that policy. So I'll have to give a little more thought into that. I know a lot of other municipalities, the policies are not necessarily citywide policy, they're department policies, at least the ones that I've seen. Or it's a citywide ordinance that goes not just to the city, but also to the residents. And I know that becomes a lot more difficult if you're trying to make a citywide ordinance mandating some of these practices. That just adds a whole level of detail to this. But at least the policies I've reviewed have been for department policies. So, but that doesn't mean we can't look at it as a city as a whole. So I'll have some other discussions with other departments, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Great. Any other questions for Director Ditchite? Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, then moving on to item 2 under informational work group updates. Moving on then to item 3, resilience coordinator update. Melissa?
Okay. We've actually talked about a lot of most of the stuff that I'm currently working on right now. So I'm going to keep my update fairly short. I had mentioned before working on a grant for green infrastructure on Eliza Street, which would be permeable pavers, which is yet another type of permeable surfacing. And it's very close to the Fox River Trail. We do have some initial modeling results for that particular project that one of our engineers was able to put together in preparation for this grant. That's not standard practice though. And that civil engineer that did that is not with the city any longer. She took a different job. So, but we do have some data to back that one up. I submitted the pre-proposal and it was accepted, and we've been invited to put in a full application. So that's encouraging. If that one goes through, we'll know sometime probably in March or April if we're awarded that. that particular grant. The next item that I want to talk about, and this will be important for some of our members of the Sustainability Commission and possibly some of the other some alders as well, but the Green Infrastructure Code Audit project that we started. Gosh, Julia, you were starting that before I was even hired. But we went through the whole process of doing the code audit, and now we have text amendments that are ready to go to the Plan Commission and to INS. So that will be happening in April for the Plan Commission, and then the INS committee will be looking specifically at the text amendments for stormwater, and Plan Commission will be looking at the text amendments for landscaping standards, as well as some of the parking lot standards and filter strips and buffer zones in between land uses and things of that nature. And this project has had widespread staff support and widespread staff input into the entire process. So we'll be looking for support from you all as well when those go to committee. And then I think that was really all I wanted to report on at this time. Any questions? Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Melissa. Last item, any other member updates? Alder Andy?
I do have a question, actually. Now, how does this differ from the two projects we're trying to bond for?
The Eliza Street project.
Yeah. Because it's permeable, and they're
Pavers.
permeable.
So
also,
if you
correct?
get a picture like, paver blocks, they're made of permeable material. So it's not like an asphalt where it's more of a continuous, and it's going to be in going to have a smaller footprint. It's a much lower dollar amount as well, Randy. And we specifically didn't put that one to the ARPA request because it is a lower dollar amount. We thought it would be more appropriate to seek funding from this particular source that the city has a really strong relationship with. And they look to fund pilot projects for municipalities that are trying to invest and develop and build capacity for green streets program. So for example, like Milwaukee has one of the most developed green streets program in the Midwest, if not nationwide. And this is the same funding agency that is helps Milwaukee as well. So that's sort of the long game with this, is that we get a project or two and really get it going so that it builds our staff capacity to be able to keep doing this into the future.
But it's a different type of material than what's going to
It
be one.
is.
Okay.
It is.
Good. All right, good. That's good.
Is it paved drain?
We have not decided on a product yet.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions for Melissa before moving on to item 4? All right, final item on the agenda, other member updates.
Can I make a motion? Oh,
I gotta tell you, I haven't texted Steve. He's been trying to get into the meeting, but no one had let him in. So he gave up.
Oh,
So
no.
he's gonna talk to Melissa tomorrow, but he was
Okay.
trying to get in. I said, why did you text me? Sorry.
I have been keeping an eye on this the whole time, and the only person that I saw was Sister Sally, who's she's still here listening. I did not see Steve.
Okay, but well, it's just nice to know, and he's going to talk to you tomorrow. So just so you know, we have gotten a foothold. Great. Seth,
Uh,
can I come back another time, do you think? Because
Please.
I was a little like crazy and, hope I was okay.
Yeah, I think we need more of this in our meetings in the future. So please come back.
Yeah, next time, let's focus it on recycling or something though. Huh?
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, Alderdorf. I really do appreciate it. This was a very, very productive meeting. Cool, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I second.
Motion by Ned, second by Julia. All those in favor, say aye.
Hey.
I
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. Talk to you all soon.